So, good morning to all. Let us resume the next session. Last session we have discussed about two-phase locking protocol. So, in that two-phase locking, we have already discussed about how to avoid the concurrency by using the locking mechanism, either it is share lock or it is a exclusive lock. Today we'll discuss about what is graph-based protocol and timestamp ordering. So, before we start those two methods, first we know that what is a graph-based protocol. So it is an alternative to two-phase locking. That means this to avoid the problem that can be occur in two-phase locking, we have to follow the graph-based protocols. Let us consider there will be d number of sets are there. We have to follow the partial ordering of those data. Let d is my collection of all those data items. So as you say, how many data items here? There will be h number of data items. It will consist of d1, d2, d3 up to dh. So h number of data item will be there. It will be collected over d of all data items. Now let two data items are there. One is di, another one is dj. So let two data item is there. One is data item I and data item j. If any transaction are accessing both di and dj, that must access di before dj. Why they must access the data item di before dj? Now you can check over there. There is an arrow mark. It can be represented like this from di to dj. That means dj can be connected to di. So di is executed first. Data item di is executed first. Then the data item dj will be executed. Once you want to access the data item dj, so di is previously should be accessed. Second point, it implies that data set d may now be viewed as a directed acyclic graph called as a database graph. Now, what is d? D is the collection of all the data items. We can construct a graph. It is a directed graph by taking all those data item of h number of data items. So entire tree structure, let us consider entire tree structure equal to d. It can be considered as a directed acyclic graph, which is called as a database graph. Now the database graph is consist of directed edges and it should be acyclic. And as you know, what is exactly the acyclic? There should not be any cycle in the graph. That is, the starting point and the end point should not be same. There is no looping concept. It is called as a acyclic graph. So the best example that can be fitted to this graph base is called as a tree protocol. So tree protocol is one of the graph based approaches to avoid the concurrency control. We will discuss about what is exactly the tree based protocol. Now let us consider this is an example of a tree based protocol. These are the data items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. In tree based protocol, only exclusive lock can be allowed. There is no concept of share lock in case of a data item tree based protocol. Only exclusive lock can be performed. So the first, you have to lock the transaction Ti that may be given on data item A. Subsequently, a data item Q can be locked by transaction Ti only if the parent of a Q is currently locked by transaction Ti. So this is the basic concept of a tree-based protocol. Suppose we have a transaction Ti, we have to put a lock on data item Q. So remember two things. One is transaction, another one is data item Q. Let the transaction equal to Ti, data item equal to Q. If the transaction equal to Ti, data item equal to Q, you can only put a lock on data item Q by the transaction Ti. So it has to satisfy a specific condition, and the condition is that all the parent of a Q should be previously locked by transaction Ti. If any one of the parent that is not associated or not locked by transaction Ti, Ti cannot perform a exclusive lock, cannot put a lock on data item Q. Second point. So the first one clear. Simple thing is that transaction Ti can put a lock on data item Q if it has a lock on all its parent of Q previously. Second point, data item may unlock at any time. Anytime we can put unlock on data item X. And third point is a data item that can be locked and unlocked by transaction Ti cannot subsequently relocked by transaction Ti. So what it indicates? If you can put a lock, then you have to put a unlock on data item. Let the data item equal to X. You have the transaction Ti, put a lock and unlock the data item X. Then it cannot subsequently in the next phases over there, it cannot relock the transaction X. The transaction Ti cannot relock the transaction X. So we have to remember those points over there. First point is, if you want to put a lock on data item A, you have the access of, or you have to already put the lock on all the data item, so parent data items over there. Second, you can unlock at any time. Third, if you put a lock on data item X, unlock it, you cannot relock over there. Okay. And the last session, we have discussed about the two-phase locking can ensure the conflict serializability and cannot ensure the deadlock. But if it's a graph-based protocol, it can ensure both serializability and this is conflict serializability as well as the free from the deadlock situations. So these are the advantages of the graph-based over the two-phase locking. It can ensure both conflict serializable as well as it is free from the deadlock. Okay, then we'll check how it is exactly work. Unlocking may occur earlier in the tree locking protocol than the two-phasing protocol. First one is shorter the waiting time and increase in the concurrency. Second one is protocol is deadlock free. So these are the basic features of this graph based. The waiting time is shorter and it increase in the concurrency. So it will increase the time or it will increase in the concurrency control mechanism. However, in tree locking protocol, a transaction may have to lock the data item that it does not have any access. So that means if we have to put a tree-based lock protocol over any data item X, we have to lock the data item that does not have any access. If we don't have using those data items, suppose in the previous example we said that if you want to put a lock over X, you have to put all the lock on parent of Q. Parent of Q. That means if the parent of a Q is may or may not needed by the data by the transaction Ti, but still you have to put a lock on those data items. Now, what is the demerit of this one? If you have to put a lock on those data item, which does not require any access to those data item, then definitely it increase the locking overhead time and additional waiting time, and it will potentially decrease in the concurrency if we have to put a lock on those data item which cannot be accessed, which is not required. So this is the disadvantages of this tree-based protocol. That will be first problem is it increases the locking overhead. The total overhead of the locking mechanism it can increase some waiting time, some additional waiting time over here. It can decrease the concurrency control. So then the question is, if it has this type of limitations, where you can use? Now those problems in which it cannot be solved in two-phase locking, we can go for the tree-based and vice versa. And those are not associated to two-phase tree-based protocol, we can go for the two-phase locking protocol. Now, what is timestamp based protocol? First, we have discussed it is two-phase locking. Second, we discussed about it is a graph-based protocol. It is based on the directed graph. That should not be any cycle. It is an acyclic graph. If you have to access a one particular data item, we have to access is the parent node. All are represented in the form of a tree structure. Hence, it is called as a tree-based protocol. Now the question is, what is timestamp based protocol? People will know that what is a timestamp based protocol. We have to know what is a timestamp. The relative waiting time for a transaction to be executed is called as timestamp. The waiting time of any transaction is called as timestamp of that transactions. So each transaction is issued a timestamp when it enter into the systems. That means when we have to execute the transactions by the system, it has to give in a timestamp according to the entry point of that transactions. So we have two transactions. One is TI, another one is TJ. Let us check what are the conditions that are associated with this transaction TI and TJ. So if an old transaction TI has a timestamp TI, a new transaction is TJ at transaction TJ, then we can write transaction of a TI is less than transaction of a TJ. Now, what is the exact meaning? Suppose let the transaction TI has the timestamp equal to 3 and the transaction TJ has the timestamp equal to 5. That means at the third number of occurrence of the operations in a sequence, transaction TI occurs. At the fifth number of occurrence, transaction TJ will be occurs. So the timestamp of a TI, it can be represented as less than the timestamp of a TJ. Okay. The question is, what is the use of this timestamp? By using this timestamp, we can find out what the serializability order. So the timestamp normally determine the serializability order of those transactions. So those transactions can be associated. We can make a serial by using those timestamp. To maintain this timestamp, there will be basically two type of timestamp will be there: read timestamp and write timestamp. One is read timestamp, another one is write timestamp, another one is timestamp of a transaction. It can be denoted by TS, let transaction equal to TI. So TS of a TI, RTS of a data item Q, WTS of a data item Q. Let the data item equal to Q, which is associated with the two timestamp. One is read timestamp, another one is write timestamp. So what is the basic difference between this read timestamp and write timestamp? If you say there is a read timestamp, it is the largest timestamp of any transaction that execute the read of a queue successfully. Remember that point. That means the read operation should be performed successfully. It should be the largest by any transaction which will execute the read of queue successfully. It is called as read timestamp. The largest timestamp of any transaction that executed the read of queue successfully. What is queue? Use the data item. It is denoted by RTS of a queue. You can denote this read timestamp as RTS of a queue. Similarly, what is write timestamp? Just the opposite of a read timestamp. The same thing is that the largest timestamp of any transaction, which successfully execute the write operation on data item Q is called as write timestamp. So the write timestamp is the largest timestamp of any transaction that are executed successfully. So what is the basic difference? The maximum number of largest time which is used to read the data item Q, read timestamp. The largest timestamp of the transaction that perform the write operation is called as a write timestamp. Okay. Now let us consider there will be two type of operation. As you know, either is a read operation or it is a write operation. Suppose two transactions are there. One is TI, another one is TJ. Let the transaction TI has to perform the operations. Okay. So there will be either it will be read operation or there will be write operation. First we discuss about read operation, then we'll go for the write operation. So there will be two rules over here to perform this timestamp protocol. The first rule is like this. What is the operation over here? The operation is read operation. Transaction equal to Ti. Data item equal to Q. First condition is if the timestamp of a transaction Ti less than the write timestamp of a transaction Q. What is exactly meaning? The timestamp of a transaction is less than the write timestamp of a data item Q. Here the only one data item we have taken, equal to data item equal to Q. We have to perform a read operation. Always remember, if it is a read operation, it has to compare with the write timestamp value. If it is a write operation, it has to compare with the read timestamp values. Just reverse way. Read operation, write timestamp, write operation, read timestamp. So the operation here it will be read. So we have to compare with the write operations. So if the timestamp of transaction Ti is less than write timestamp of a Q. Now tell me what is the exact meaning of this one? What is the exact meaning of this one? That means transaction of the timestamp of a Ti is less than the write timestamp. So the timestamp of Ti is lesser value than the write operation of a timestamp of a Q. So Ti is executed first, then write timestamp of Q will be executed. Hence, Ti is need to read a value of a Q that has already been written. Hence, a read operation is rejected and Ti is rolled back. So if the condition is satisfied, that is timestamp of any transaction is less than the write timestamp of a Q, then Ti need to read a value, the Q value that is to be read by transaction Ti, which is already been written, Hence read operation is rejected and Ti is rolled back. What is exactly meaning of this Ti is rolled back? That means Ti is to be started from the beginning. That normal execution is not possible. It has to go from the beginning phase. First condition is over. Second condition. And as you previously discussed that it is always, since it is a read operation, it has to always be compared with a write timestamp. So if timestamp of a Ti, if the timestamp of a Ti is greater than the write timestamp of a Q, that means the write timestamp is executed first, then the transaction Ti will be executed. So then the read operation is executed. The read timestamp of a Q is set maximum read timestamp of Q and transaction of a Ti. Okay. So what is exactly meaning? If the timestamp of a Ti, if the timestamp of a Ti is greater than the timestamp of a, if the timestamp of Ti is greater than the write timestamp of a Q, then read operation will be executed, and the read timestamp is set to maximum value of a read timestamp and a timestamp. Which one is the maximum? It can be associated with those values over there. Okay, so both the rules are clear. Read operation, timestamp of Ti should be compared with the write timestamp. First one is less than timestamp. Second one is either greater than or equal to. In first case, we have to reject the read operation, roll back the transaction Ti. In second case, we have to perform the read operation. The value should be associated with the maximum value of a read timestamp of Q or timestamp of a transaction Ti. Next, read is completed. Second one is if we have to perform the write operations. So as you previously discussed the write operation, you have to check with the read timestamp. So if timestamp of a Ti is less than the timestamp of a Q, so which one is executed first? Ti is executed first, is less. That means Ti is executed first, then read timestamp of Q. Then the value of a Q that Ti is produced was needed previously, and the system is assumed that the value would never be produced. Hence, the write operation is rejected and Ti is to be rolled back. So this is the basic objective over here. If the timestamp of a Ti is less than the read timestamp of Q, we have to reject the write operation and Ti is to be rolled back. But in the previous part, the read operation is to be rejected and Ti is to be rolled back. This is the basic difference. Write operation should be rejected, that read operation will be executed, and both the cases Ti will be rolled back. Second condition. if transaction of a Ti, second case, we can check this condition over here. If the timestamp of a Ti is less than write timestamp of a Q, that means Ti has a lesser Ti transaction of a Ti has a less timestamp than the write timestamp of a Q. That means which one is executed first? Ti is executed first before the write timestamp. Hence, Ti is attempt to write an absolute value of a Q. Hence, write operation is to be rejected and Ti is to be rolled back. Okay. So here we have to abort. We have to reject the write operation and Ti is again go for the rollback. If these two condition is not satisfied, then we will go for the third rule, which is called as, if the first two conditions are not satisfied, then we will go for the performing the write operation. You can check in the first two. There will be no write operation, but only there is a write operation in the case number 3. If the above two rules are not satisfied, if the above two rules are not satisfied, then we can execute the write operations. So only the case in which the write operation can be executed, that is the write timestamp operation. Here first condition is the timestamp should not be less than read timestamp. Timestamp Ti should not be less than write timestamp. Then only the write operation can be executed, and the write timestamp is set at the timestamp of a Ti. That means the timestamp of a Ti, it can be associated with the timestamp of a write timestamp of a Q. So the write timestamp of Q will accrue the value of a timestamp of a Ti in that case. This is all about the timestamp. Now I can check an example of this protocol. Okay, so let us discuss this example over here. Let us consider a partial schedule of several data items with a different number of timestamps over there. So timestamp will be T1, T2, T3, T4, and those are executed over here. Let there will be 3 number of data items are there, X, Y, and Z. You can check over here the timestamp of a T5 equal to 1. The timestamp of a T5 equal to 1. Timestamp of T2 equal to 2. Timestamp of a T1 equal to 3. Timestamp of a T3 equal to 4. And timestamp of a T4 timestamp of a T4 equal to next. So what it indicate? The order in which the transaction are executed is nothing but the timestamp. So here we'll go for a read of X, read of Y, read of Y, write of Y, write of Z, read of Z, read of Z, then there's the abort operations. Okay. So from this example, you can verify that what is the time order sequence of those protocols. Okay. Now we'll discuss about what is the correctness of this timestamp ordering protocol. Whether the timestamp ordering protocol is correct or not, what is the advantage over there? The timestamp ordering protocol guarantees serializability, and this is the basic points over here. It guarantees the serializability. Since it is in the form of that, we can draw that in the form of a precedence graph. So timestamp with a smaller, all the transactions with the smaller timestamp, there is error to the all the timestamp of the. If we represent a precedence graph based on the timestamp ordering protocol, then we can put a arrow mark from all the transactions which are having the smaller timestamp to all the transactions with the larger transactions. Hence, there will be no cycle in the precedence graph. If there is a no cycle, hence in the precedence graph will guarantee the serialization. This is the condition of the serialization in the precedence graph. The graph should not consist of the cycle. Hence, since all those transactions with the smaller timestamp we can put arrow to the largest timestamp. There should not be any cycle, hence it guarantees the serializability. Again, the timestamp protocol insert the free from the deadlock. Why? And since all those transactions of the smaller timestamp is executed first, then the largest timestamp will be executed. Hence, no one has to wait. But the schedule may not be cascade free or may not even be recoverable. So this is the disadvantages of this timestamp array. It cannot be recoverable or it cannot be cascade free. But it gives the serializability and it is free from the deadlock conditions. Okay. Now the question is, what is that? That is the issues that are associated with this timestamp ordering, recoverability and cascade freedom. Let us consider a problem. Suppose there will be two transactions, one is Ti, another one is Tj. Suppose transaction Ti abort, but the transaction Tj has read a data item written by transaction Ti. So two scenarios will be there. Two transactions will be there. One is Ti, another one is Tj. Ti is abort. What do you mean by Ti is abort? Means Ti abort means the normal execution of the Ti should not be possible. It has to return back to the past operation and it can be completed. There will be no operation will be continue over there. It should be abort. But the transaction Tj is read a data item which is already written by transaction Ti. Okay. Now, if Ti is abort, the question is, can Tj perform the read operation on that data item which is already written by transaction Ti or not? Now the question is, if it is already abort, then Tj again should have to abort. If Tj had been allowed to commit earlier, the schedule should not be recoverable. Why? Why the scenario will be there? That means Ti has to abort. All the operation is associated with Ti has to abort. So all the transaction, all the data item which is performed by Ti, it cannot be used by some other processes. Hence, Tj should be abort. If Tj had been allowed to commit earlier, the schedule is not recoverable. Further, if any transaction that has read a data item written by transaction Tj must abort. Okay. So any transaction, first Ti abort, subsequently Tj abort, subsequently any transaction which is use the data item of a Tj, it again has to be abort. Hence, by using this principle, this is called as a cascading rollback or it is a chain of rollback. Now it is clear what is a cascading rollback. That means it is based on the layers of dependability of one transaction with the other. If the first one will go for the abort, we have to abort the second one, we have to abort the third one, we have to abort the fourth one, wherever there is a dependency of those data items over the transactions. Hence there is a chain of rollback will be there, and that rollback is called as cascading rollbacks. Okay. So this is the disadvantages of this timestamp protocol, which is called as the cascading rollback. So how we can overcome this cascading rollback? There is a solution to this. First one is, a solution is structured such that writes are all performed at the end of its processing. So first solution is that it has to perform all the write operations at the end of its processing. So all write of a transaction from an atomic action, no transaction may execute while a transaction is being written. So this is the point. That means all the write operation is an atomic action. No other operation can be performed whenever there is a written operation can be executed over there. And third thing is that if a transaction is abort, it is registered with a new timestamp, not in the previous timestamp. It has to restart with a new timestamp. Remember that point. First point is, a transaction is structured so that its write operation is set to perform at the end of the processing. Second one, the write operation should be atomic. During the write operation, no operation will be executed by the transaction. Third one is, the transaction which is go for the abort, it has to start from a new timestamp. It cannot continue with the Okay. So next rule is Thomas-Wright rule. So based on that previous concept of how to overcome this cascading rollbacks recoverability, this rule will be implemented. So there will be certain rules over here. We can discuss about it. Timestamp ordering protocol. So the last part here you can summarize like this. Let us consider Ti is the transaction and its timestamp equal to Ti. So it indicates that it is the timestamp of transaction Ti. Second, we discuss is a read timestamp, and third one is discuss is already write timestamp of X. The last part can be summarized like this. First one, we have to, but as you know, we have to perform two type of operation. Either it is a read operation or it is a write operation. So first we'll discuss about read operation, then we'll discuss about write operation. Okay. So if it's a read operation, first we have to check two things. And as you said that if the read, it is always compared with the write timestamp. So if a read timestamp of Ti is less than write timestamp of X, then we have to perform operation will be rejected. Second condition, if timestamp of Ti is greater than timestamp of write timestamp of X, then operation will be executed. All data item timestamp will be updated. We have already discussed that one, and it is just written like this. Now, second point is if the write operations. If the write operation, you have to check with the read value first. If timestamp of Ti is less than the read timestamp T1, all the operations will be rejected. If the timestamp of Ti is less than the write timestamp of X, all operations are rejected and Ti is to be rolled back. If these two condition is not satisfied, if these two both the condition is not satisfied, we will go for executing the operation. We have to perform the write operation. Okay. Next we will move for Thomas-Wright rule. What exactly Thomas-Wright rule is discussing? It is a modified version of timestamp ordering protocol in which you can perform a absolute write operation which may ignore with a certain circumstances. So Thomas-Wright rule is a part of that. Thomas-Wright rule is a part of that timestamp ordering in which we have to ignore some of the operations. Okay. First thing is when the transaction Ti, let us consider the transaction Ti, data item equal to Q, transaction equal to Ti. We have to check which type of operation that can be performed over here. Now, when the transaction Ti attend to write data item Q, first we have to check whether the timestamp of a Ti is less than write timestamp of Q or not. If yes, that means the timestamp of a Ti is less than the write timestamp of a Q, then Ti is attempting to write an absolute value of a Q. Hence, rather than the rollbacking of Ti, at the timestamp ordering would have been done, this write operation can be ignored. The simple thing is that first we have to check whether the timestamp of Ti is less than write timestamp of Q or not. If yes, instead of a rollback in the previous timestamp we have directly rollback the transaction Ti. So instead of that rollback, we can perform a write. We can ignore the write operation. We can ignore the write operation if the timestamp ordering is already been done. Otherwise, the protocol is the same as the timestamp ordering protocol. So all other protocol that are same as the timestamp protocol except the first one. That means if this condition is satisfied, timestamp of Ti is less than the write timestamp of Q. Rather than rollbacking the transaction Ti, we have to only ignore the write operations. Okay. So what is the advantages of this Thomas-Wright rule? The Thomas-Wright rule allow a greater potential of a concurrency. Unlike the previous body, they allow some view serializable schedule that are not conflict serialized. And those are the previous protocols: two-phase, graph-based protocol, tree-based protocol, then we have log-based protocol. All are associated with the conflict serializable. Does not describe about the view serializable. We know there will be two types of serializable: either it is a conflict serializable or it is a view serializable. So no algorithm, no protocol will satisfy that view serializable rather than this Thomas-Wright rule. So Thomas-Wright rule can be associated with the view serializable. This is the biggest advantages over here. It can be associated with the view serializables. Okay. So this is all about the timestamp ordering protocol. Next we'll discuss about what is a validation based protocol. So let us discuss about that validation based protocol. Now execution of a transaction TI done in 3 phases. As we know, there will be 3 number of phases will be there: read and execution phase, validation phase, and write phase. So there will be 3 number of phases over here. We have to read and execute the phase, we have to validate the phase, and we have to make the write operation on that phase. So any type of validation based protocol, it has to following these 3 number of phases: read and execution phase, validation phase, and write phase. So go to the first one, is called as read and validation phase. Suppose my transaction equal to Ti. The transaction Ti write only the temporary local variable. So initially, whenever we read a data item, we have to execute the data item. We have to write only in temporary local variable. It cannot be associated with the permanent variable. It can take some temporary local variable. So the first phase is read and execution phase. Second phase is validation phase. So it will check the validation test. It will follow the validation test. The transaction TI perform a validation test to determine if the local variable can be written without violating the serializability or not. So this is nothing but a testing phase, but to test the validation whether the transaction TI can perform a write operation without violating the serializable property. Can easily perform that write operations without violating the serializability. And the once read will be completed, validation will be completed, we have to perform the write operation, is called as write phase. So after TI validated, the updates are applied to the database. That means the write operation will be completed. Otherwise, we have to roll back the transactions. Okay. So read and execution phase, validation phase, write phase. Read, it will read the data item and write into a local variable, temporary variable. Validation, it will check whether the test is valid without violating the serializability. Third, once the validation is completed, it will be updated, applied to the database. Otherwise, we can roll back the transaction TI. Now, these 3 phases of concurrently executing transaction can be interleaved, but each transaction must go through the 3 number of phases in that order. So, all those are interleaved, but each and every transaction has to be passed over those 3 number of phases: read phase, validation phase, and write phase. So let us consider an example. As we know, there is a 3 number of phase. So 3 number of timestamp will be there: start of TI, validation of TI, and finish of TI. What is exactly start of TI? As the name suggested, the time when the transaction TI is started its execution. The transaction TI started its execution is called as start of TI. Once it is started, then it will check the validation phase. Once it enter into the validation phase, the time in which the Ti enter into the validation phase, it's called as validation time. And once the transaction Ti is completed its operation, then it is called as finish time. So three things out there. If the time when it start the execution, start time, start of Ti, when it enter into the validation stage called as validation of Ti, when it perform the right phase, the complete the right, when it perform the finish, when it perform the right phase, it's called as finish of Ti. So the serializability order is determined by the timestamp given at validation time to increase the concurrency. Thus, the timestamp Ti is given the value of a time. So the timestamp of a Ti can be directly associated with the validation of a Ti. Okay. So what is the advantages of this type of protocols? The advantages of this type of protocol, it can be useful to achieve the concurrency, high degree of concurrency if the probability of conflict is low. It can be suitable to achieve the greater degree of concurrency if the conflict is very low. But if the conflict is very high, you cannot normally use this validation based protocol. So, and all those operation is based on this validation test. Now we have to discuss what is that phase. So it is nothing but that validation of a transaction Tj. Validation of that transaction Tj. Okay. Now you can check over here. Validation of transaction Tj. If now let us consider two transactions will be there. One is Ti, another one is Tj. We have to check what is the validation among those transaction Ti and transaction Tj. The validation for transaction Tj. For all Ti with the transaction Ti is less than the transaction Tj, what did it indicate? The timestamp of Ti is less than the timestamp of Tj. Ti is executed first, then Tj will be there. Either one of the following condition or. So first condition is the finish of Ti should be less than start of Tj, or start of Tj less than the finish of Ti less than the validation of Tj. So any one of the condition will be satisfied. For this condition, Ti is less than Tj, and the set of data item written by Ti does not intersect the set of data that can be read by. So remember that point is most important feature of this one. The data set which is to be written by transaction, the data set which is to be written in the transaction Ti, that does not intersect with the set of data item that can be read by transaction Tj. Then we can only perform the validation of a Tj. Then the validation succeeds and Tj can be committed. Otherwise, we have to abort. So in these two cases, we can perform the validation of the transaction Tj. First one is after the finish of Ti, Tj will be start. The finish of Ti is less than the start of Tj, or the start of Tj is less than finish, less than should be validation of a Tj, or the data items so already been written by Ti that does not intersect with the set of data item Tj. In that case only we can validate, can say that is successful, and we have to perform the commit operation, otherwise we have to abort. Okay, so this is all about. Now you can check this example. It's called as a schedule due to validations. So let two transactions will be there. One is T14 and T15. T14 will perform the read of B. Then T15 will perform read of B, perform any updation operation, read of A will be there. Then read of A, at that point, you have to perform a validate operation. Once you perform a validate operation, then you can use the data item display of A and B. A is already there, B is already there, you have to display A or B. Then it can perform the validate operation by transaction T5. You can perform the write operation B as well as write operation on A. So this is all about the different type of protocols, different type of log-based protocol, which can be used in the database system for the transaction processing systems. And these are the important concepts. So overall, we discuss about those protocols. It is called as log-based protocol, timestamp-based protocol, and validation-based protocol. Within this log-based protocol, we have discussed about two-phase locking. We have already discussed about two-phase locking. Then in the timestamp, we'll go for the graph-based protocol, tree protocols, normal timestamp, Thomas Wright rule. Then within that validation protocol, we have to check the validation protocol. Okay. Thank you.